To open the meeting for the Carver Town Hall for the Carver Finance Committee, October 25th, 2021. Can we stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Couple of quick little announcements. Meeting is being recorded by Area 58 as always. Thank you. Sean Morgan has stepped down from the FinCom. He sold his house and moved out of town. And we'd like to welcome Walter Cole, who's our newest member. Welcome, Walter. I ordered your name tag, your nameplate today, and got confirmation from Shelby that it's been ordered. We finally have Mr. Clark's nameplate, came in a couple of days ago. You owe me $25.
Put it on my bill.
Okay. Shelby Blair, everybody knows and loves, is now Shelby Roy. So I asked her today how many times she's gone to sign her name and written a B and had to change the B to an R in a hurry. She says she practiced. So congratulations to her. With everyone's permission, I'd like to take the budget transfer a little out of order. I'd like to take the budget transfer for $2,800 to the, I guess it's going to recreation for the underground. And Dave Siedentoff will make his case.
Good evening. Thank you. So what this was, through the Recreation Committee on the new municipal playground that resides out behind the old police station, they wanted to install a camera system that would overlook the playground area, the ball fields, the parking lot, the restrooms. So we investigated, had some contractors come in, give us pricing. A vendor was decided upon, and they looked at it, had a couple different options, gave us a price, and then came back and said that we'd have to do some, in their price, what they decided upon after the price is, there was a few options, but what we ended up having to doing was run some underground piping for them so they could connect their cameras, as it is not a wireless system. It will be wireless from point A to point B. I won't go into specifics. But the cameras themselves need to be hardwired, so I had a contractor come in, and they had to do 300 foot of trenching throughout the municipal playground to get everything connected. So we bought the pipe, they did the trench and laid the piping in. So that is what this money was for. It was just not anticipated anything we did not budget for. The camera system was something that came about, as you know, through FinCom. Rec requested it. FinCom said, yes, let's go ahead and do it. So this is just a little addition to that amount.
This wasn't in the original transfer
Correct,
request when Bill Harriman came before us
That is correct.
for that transfer.
Yeah. So this is just additional funds for this project that we're hoping to receive.
Any questions, anybody?
We already trenched, already done?
Yes, the pipe is in. The camera system is not running, as, once again, we're seeing delays in the camera equipment.
We still don't have the cameras yet?
No,
Really?
no.
So much
The
for June
last
1st.
email said right now they have a delivery date of the first week of November.
Okay.
But that's already been pushed back once, so,
Will they still be installed when they get here?
yes.
Weather
Yeah,
permitting?
yeah, weather will not affect.
Okay.
Did they trench through the baseball field, or did they?
No, it was all in the stone dust area in between the fields, so we didn't actually have to enter into the fields.
Anybody else?
I have a question, just a couple, but the first one is, in here it indicates that the present balance in the appropriation is $11,404. Do you know what that, is that the balance that's in your rec field use revolving operating supplies account?
There was just some, I can look into that, Adam, I can't answer it right now because there was just some conversation between the new finance director in our department as what is in what accounts. There's money there. After we just paid, as you know, we overseeded and fertilized the 2 ball fields.
Yeah.
So that was just under $10,000. That has been done. I paid for that out of the revolving fields and maintenance account. But as far as the balance, I'll have to have Carrie
Yeah,
consult with.
I asked the question only because, like, sort of as a matter of like principle and due course, I would think that as a finance committee that's making decisions on reserve fund transfers, right? It makes sense to transfer that money if the balance of the account can't cover the expense,
Right.
right?
I
So
just-
and that's why I'm looking here and I see present balance is $11,400. I say, well, there's $2,800 there to pay the bill.
Right.
So
I'm
why
just-
would we proactively
Right.
use reserve fund money for that?
I will have to check with Carrie, and I know there was some discussion with the new finance director as far as what's incumbent, what we still owe, because we still have to winterize fields, as far as fertilization and irrigation. So some of that money is earmarked for that. And then there was some, I don't want to say back and forth because it makes it sound argumentative, and it's not at all. It's just we're trying to figure out what money lies in what account, and get that squared away, which Sue has been working
Okay.
with Carrie on.
So do we have to vote on this now?
Yeah. Emily had contacted me. They were gonna take this money out of their contribution account and not come to FinCom at all. And I'm the one who said, no, put a transfer request in. Because it was, I believed, the town's responsibility to put cameras on that ball field. That's what we wanted to do in the very beginning. This money was not in that original bid.
Correct.
So my angle was, there's no reason why we aren't paying for the rest of that installation, and don't touch your current account, because that account is budgeted and earmarked for maintenance fees and so forth, and then recreation activities for the kids.
Which is typically underfunded anyway.
So I didn't want them taking another $2,800 out of that account. And Emily was nice enough to sit back and say, you know, we'll pay for it. And I said, no, why would you do that? Then you're gonna be short in an item that we can't help you with.
Right.
This is something that, this has been my thing from the moment this playground opened, and everybody knows that. I've been very vocal about it. And I still believe that we need to have cameras back there. Did it need to be, or did I have any idea it was gonna be this expensive? No, I didn't. But the bottom line is this, it's only gonna save or help to save one individual, and it's money well spent, in my estimation. So I appreciated Emily offering to not burden us with this. It's $2,800. The money is sitting in the reserve account. We as a board voted to transfer funds to do the cameras. I think that this just finishes the project, and I think that's on us.
If-
That's,
Not to imply anything, but my thought is, if when they originally came and requested the original amount, let's say it was $20,000, if the original amount was $22,800, we would have approved it with no problem,
Correct.
right? So if this number was included in the original number, it wouldn't have changed the decision to approve or not approve the project. This is just additional
Right.
funds that weren't foreseen and expected. The reason why I asked the question is because it would make sense to me as part of our due diligence and making these decisions to understand that we're doing this stuff because there's a need there, as opposed to proactively, sort of subsidizing, a request, as opposed to doing something in reaction to the fact that the account's actually empty.
Right.
So that's the first thing, and I think what you're saying now makes more sense to me, as to why the request was put in, if that's the case. And again, I think if the original request was $2,800 higher, we still would have approved it, so.
Yep.
In addition to that, and it's not specific to you, Dave, but I think as moving forward with these types of requests, because I think it would be helpful if the folks submitting the request, and maybe this is a conversation to have with the finance director, but providing more documentation specific to what the number is comprised of. Like, we got some additional paperwork tonight that we're gonna go over for the next funds transfer request that helps clarify some of this. But for what it's worth, I recently learned that somebody came before this committee and requested money for something and told us I need $2,000. And after the fact, I found out that they made the same request to someone else for the same exact stuff. And when they made the request to the other body, they provided estimates and invoices, and the dollar amount was significantly less than what they requested from us. So, point being, I think moving forward, it behooves us to have documentation of what these actual costs are, specific cost estimates on what this stuff is, before we approve it as a finance committee, because I don't want to be in a position again where I find out after the fact that we approved a dollar amount that's significantly higher than the estimates and invoices that they received
I don't disagree
for
with
what they
that.
purchased.
I don't
And
know
it
what-
was not you, Dave, so
I
I'm
don't
not
know what-
implying you.
I don't
just
know what
think-
you're referring
I just
to.
think as a matter of course, it's something we should do going forward. And it's water under the bridge, so it's not important to bring it up and rehash it. I just think it behooves us as a board to make sure that we're doing that due diligence going forward to protect us and protect the town.
Yeah, I don't
That's all.
disagree. I
Well,
don't
should
disagree.
we make a motion tonight with the caveat that this money's already been earmarked?
I'm sorry?
So for this $2,800 tonight, should we make the motion that it's only to be transferred if this money's already been
No,
earmarked
because
for
this
something
is,
else?
that money that's left in that set appropriation is going for field maintenance and winterization and so forth
Okay,
and so
so
on.
it's-
This is over and above and part of the original, I see this as part of the original transfer request, that I don't think there was planning, you were planning on having to dig any holes.
Correct.
I think we had a different system going in, and I think that this got changed.
Yes.
So, you know, we didn't specify the system, we specified a dollar amount.
Right.
And this came up to be more than they expected because they had to do some trenching. Originally, I assume we're still doing wireless connections and so forth from
There is
point A
from-
to point
from
B.
point A to point
I don't want to
B,
get
yes.
into details on
Yeah.
on the security system, but in order to get it over to the station. But I think the cameras were not originally planned on being hardwired together. I think there was going to be a different system used.
Correct. Then they came back with
Then
an
they came
alternate.
back with something.
And that's what,
I think a hardwired system's more reliable anyway.
yep, and that's what necessitated the trenching.
Okay. Pat?
You know, in my experience, this is not an uncommon issue. It happens, and basically you go in, and you say, you know, we had this unforeseen circumstance. We need X amount of dollars to deal with it, just like the, when Bill Harriman came in the first time. And then you find out that, oh, something else was unforeseen, and we go in the same direction as that. So it was a transfer originally, and it should be a transfer now.
Ron?
Yeah, just getting back to Beth's point, Dave, the 11404, that's not where you drew from to winterize the fields. That was a separate revolving account?
Well, those revolving accounts, and there's a couple accounts, and this is what we're trying to get squared away with the new finance director, as far as what money recreation provides. When there was a merger of recreation and operations and maintenance, took over the field maintenance, the money that recreation takes in from user fees and everything goes into that revolving, if you want to call it a revolving account, to pay for the maintenance of the fields.
Okay.
So that 11,000 that's there, there's actually a couple of accounts, and that's what we're trying to get squared away with finance now, is, so that money that's there, all of that's, and I don't have that number, could be encumbered for, because I still have to pay for
Okay.
winter, yeah, I could have to still pay for winter, I still have to pay for winter fertilization, winterization of the irrigation, and that money carries us through to the rest of FY '22. So that's startup in the spring fertilization, all the maintenance that comes along with that.
Okay.
I think this 2,800 should go in the same account that the funds transfer originally went in for the cameras.
Yes.
I don't know what account they put that in, but
Right, I don't know.
I know it wasn't in the police budget. It didn't go into an account over there. I don't believe it did anyway. I think it went into recreation.
Yes.
So with Sue not being here, we can't ask, but I think that $2,800 should go in the exact same account as the original funds transfer.
Right, and I believe that's sitting somewhere, because you're right, Alan, as far as to the best of my knowledge, that was not,
It was June
we did not include that
Right,
into the
June.
police station project or any other project, that's a
Right.
standalone.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bill Harriman.
So we talked about it on,
So this went into the new police station account, the $28,639.86 on June 8th. Went into the new police station account, 3210-418-105-5845. Now, whether or not it then got pulled back out of there and put over,
Right, that I
don't know. But it looks
Obviously-
to me like this money went into the police station account because Bill Harriman was doing the bidding on it. He was doing the search on it.
Yes.
And they didn't have, and this says here, they had 516,000 still in that police station account, but that was all money that was spoken for.
Right.
So I would like to see maybe two questions. Elaine, could you maybe get those answers for us, find out where this original 28,000 ended up? And I'd like to see this 2,800 go back in the same account, so that there's a fluid accounting as to the camera system and all its costs, without it having been buried off in some account that's $17 million. Do you know what I mean? Can we do that?
Did we ever determine how many cameras?
4 is what I wrote.
No, I thought there's more than that now. I thought there was 6.
I believe there's 6, I think that's right. It pretty much
There were
gives us
4
full coverage
original.
on the fields, the parking lot, and the restroom side of the concession stand.
And it was never a budgeted item, it just became a thing, so. So that's where we're at with it. But I would like, we could make that part of the motion, that the money go into the same account as the camera fund originally went into. But the caveat to that is if that 28,000 ended up in the police budget, then this 2,800 will go back into that, and that money will just vanish off into Never Never Land as far as trying to find an accounting line for it. I was under the impression it was going to get its own account.
I can ask Mr. Harriman tomorrow, I'll reach out to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, wherever it landed, it's still there because we have not
We
paid a
haven't
vendor or
written a check out
anything.
of it yet, so.
Would it hurt to put it in a different account?
Well, I thought, I was under the impression that it was gonna be, that it was gonna be changed over and taken out of the police station account and go into another sub-account within recreation, so that you'd see it. So it would show up in a spreadsheet, and we'd look at it and say, okay, this is where this 28,000 went for new cameras, as opposed to it being lost off in a $7 million
Project, right?
project, where it just becomes part of a total.
Yep. I'll
So-
reach out to Mr. Harriman
Yeah,
tomorrow.
so I guess why I'm asking is because theoretically, you know, we could just put it into the field use and operating supplies account that they requested to put it into.
Yeah,
And then we ensure that it's in that account and not lost in some police account.
I'm fine with that,
It would be
too.
different, I agree, but
That's fine with me.
You know, if you don't have a problem with it going into this field use revolving account, which is where you've requested it go, and was that your request, or
Yes,
was that
yeah.
finance department?
Yep, no, that's fine, it can go into that account.
Yeah, that would make, actually not as, it would make as much sense because you did the digging and so forth and so on, so I get that. All right. I guess, anybody else? Get your hand up? No? Take a motion?
motion to approve the funds transfer request of $2,800 into the rec field use revolving operating supplies account.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the $2,800 for the transfer request for the recreation field use revolving account. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
See how easy that was? Perfect. Thank you, Dave. You want me to sign these and give these to you now? And you can take them wherever you need to take them?
Sure.
I'll be interested to hear what your explanation from that other thing. I'd be very interested in that,
I'll tell you afterwards what I know.
because that isn't good.
That's why I'm just sort of like, okay, now I need to cross my Ts and dot my Is.
Absolutely. And that's how these become rules. Dave? Just make 2 copies of that if you need. I didn't make 3 copies. Elaine, you gave me 3 on this other one. Do I need 3? Usually I just turn in a signed copy and that's it. We're off to the races, but.
Year-long discussion with Rick in the town, when Michael was still there.
But thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a great night.
It's cold in here, Dave.
It's fine.
for you.
It's not.
That'll get us out in a hurry. All right, the next one is a request for a transfer for the IT account, and I've asked Elaine to take time out tonight to come and explain this. We all have copies of an email. I dug a little deeper, so I'll let Elaine start.
So last fiscal year, I requested around 18,000, as you can see from the email, for the, our IT needs for the town. And as you can see from the email from Meg, that was never put into a budget line item for us. We are in need of IT for the town. Stephen Mahoney actually added more expenses that I was unaware of for IT needs. Page 3 of your packet lists them out, itemizes them. There's the South Shore computer repair contract that does our monthly monitoring. We have our Comcast internet, all of our email licenses, the carverma.org and gov domain names, our Civic Plus website hosting, and we just added for our new online permitting software for iPads for the inspectors to use out in the field. So originally, he had told me 44,000 from my 18, but then when he sent this itemized spreadsheet, it has now been reduced to 30,130. So I'm actually asking for less. I don't know if that helps.
When we read the email, Meg says that she did take it out after discussing it with Rick. So I contacted Rick today, and the response I got back when I asked him, did he in fact do this, or did Meg do this? And I was told by him that Meg had said, this is a school budget item. And that's why he was okay with taking it out. Only then to find out that it's not a school budget item, that it's the town side of things. So since no one's here to ask,
So you can see, I think further on in your packet, I did attach what I requested. Did I give that to you guys? You might not have a copy of my original request, but in the second page, you can see towards the bottom, the 18,870 was sent in a request on 12/22/20 prior to the FY '22 budget.
Yep.
That is because we knew the town and the school separate out their IT, and that we needed money in our budget for it. So the previous fiscal year, we had no money in our budget for IT
because
as
it
well.
was the school.
Right. The school covers IT and
Right.
the town covers
Right.
O&M.
And then this year, for this year here, then Meg was aware of it and Rick wasn't listening, or was it
I don't know,
packaged in? or-
I was not a part of those budget meetings,
Okay, so-
but I made them aware.
All right,
Because
But I thought, you're right, I thought that the school was taking IT and we were taking O&M.
they do. All the IT costs, any costs associated with IT for the town, comes out of the school budget.
that's what I thought.
So I'm not a part of those meetings.
Right.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know how they divided it, but we have
So-
been told that these costs are not covered by the school's IT budget,
How can, okay.
which is why I put in the request for
So
them.
this is where we get into this quagmire of the battle between the schools and the town, because this is the town website, this is the town.gov email addresses. And I also know for a fact that the gentleman, the company that does the repairs and maintenance on the computers hasn't been paid for 6 months and literally shut the town off. So, this is silly. This is,
We need better explanation than this. And people that are involved in it should be here explaining it.
I don't disagree.
I'm not voting for it.
What happens if we don't approve this transfer tonight? What bill doesn't get paid that absolutely has to get paid?
Well, there's no budget to pay any of them.
I appreciate that. So does that mean the website doesn't work next Tuesday, or the
could.
email addresses cease to operate, or So this IT budget is on fire right now, and this is the only way to put it out?
As far as I know, unless the finance director or the town administrator has another place to pay it from that I'm unaware of. But we have been asking to have these bills paid, and we haven't been given any direction on where to pay them from.
This is a problem.
I would think if it was that dire, that the individuals with the individuals responsible for making sure that IT functions in this town would be here tonight.
I'm
And so-
surprised that Stephen Mahoney's not here, I'm surprised that Ron Griffin's not here, I'm not, well,
And
Rick
so-
is away, and Sue Moquin's not here.
So either it's not that critical, or there's a severe lapse in judgment. But I think that it's 30% of the funds transfer availability, funds that are available on an annual basis from a reserve fund account standpoint. I think it's an awful lot of money without clarity on specifically what it's for, who's responsible for it, and why it's being requested in this way.
And how long has this been circulating in the background?
Since, well, the original request was in November of last year. My revised request was sent on 12/22/20. And then you can see Meg's response, January 27th, 2021. She took the budget out.
And none of this was ever brought to us during budget meetings,
No. And
because I recall none of this conversation at all. And yet there's an email from January 27th, 2021, saying I did take it out. And then she's also saying, earth removal has a gigantic revolving fund. Well, that's not where we're gonna go pick from, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, November 19th, 2020 was my original request.
And this was never brought to FinCom. This was never put on the floor at town meeting. It was never discussed, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if it was discussed with the school committee concerning their budget, but it was never, and we didn't have a joint meeting like we typically do with the school.
Is this, could some of this now be considered, unpaid bills from previous fiscal year?
No. These are all
'Cause we're into
FY '22
previous
bills.
fiscal years talking
This
about
is the request that I put in for FY '22.
So,
But we need people here, responsible people, to explain it.
well, it's worse than that. The reserve fund is there
It's not a bailout.
for a budget that has unforeseen expenses,
Yeah.
not to fund a budget that doesn't exist to begin with,
Or somebody forgot
or to
put it
establish a
in.
budget.
Yeah.
And while, I know the grief this is causing you,
If the agreement is that the school budget covers IT costs, except the ones that they don't want to, they either cover the IT costs, or it's laid out exactly what they cover and what they don't. They can't just come back, budgets were put
I
in
agree.
place that probably included this, and now the money's been used somewhere else, and now they don't have the money.
Well,
Yeah.
Meg says in her email, I think there needs to be a discussion with the school department about what the larger IT capital article does and does not cover. Without this info, I cannot say whether the smaller amount coming out of the capital and debt stabilization fund will or will not be enough to cover all the town's needs. So, she's pointing out that a discussion needs to take place between IT and the school department to address this issue. And unfortunately, I don't know that that's happened, but the people that may or may not have had that discussion aren't here. It's,
but to sit back and
Unfortunately, just
continue
you.
to say again, because the budget is so tight for next year, but there's nothing going in this account. Obviously, there had to be something to be put in the IT account, unless everyone was under the impression that this is 100% on the school's burden. And now the school says, no, we're not paying for this.
So just like last year, we had no paper budget, which is why the town meeting warrants were on 8.5 by 14 paper, because we couldn't buy 8.5 by 11 paper.
Really?
I did get a paper budget this year.
I'm gonna tell you, at this
I'm sorry, I hate to laugh.
at this point
The
in
gang that
time,
can't shoot straight? What
I
is
mean,
going
we're being
on?
resourceful.
at this point in time, it doesn't matter whose budget it is in this part of the fiscal year. There are balances within the budget that can cover at least something. Okay, and if we've got a vendor that in good faith has done work in something, there should be some
gotta
kind
get
of
paid.
effort in which to do that. But this goes nowhere with me until we get some people in the room explaining it, how it happened, why it happened, and what the request is actually should be.
Yep.
So in all honesty, you need to tell this committee what happens tomorrow morning. If there's no money to pay a bill, there's obviously a balance owed the computer guy. There's, I mean, again, I have to ask, is the website gonna stop working? Is the emails gonna go off into the cloud someplace because we've been shut down? What,
I don't know at what point they shut off. I could check with IT to see what the limit is. I have no idea.
and Steve Mahoney was so busy tonight that he could send you an email but not show up to explain
Check
this?
with IT if they were here tonight.
Yeah, maybe we hold an emergency meeting if we
Yeah.
have to.
We can do that.
So can I just ask, because I don't know enough about the school or any, anything with their software accounting, but just say we approved this tonight, but then we met afterwards just to get these people paid. Can you do an intercompany, like, transfer with a journal entry to their books? Or are you guys on two different software?
Two different,
Okay.
yeah, the school's money and the town's money doesn't mix.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't
once we
mix.
approve it, we
Okay.
can't come back in and remove it.
Okay.
Once the money's gone, then there's no place to take it back from.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if we were on the same software, if we could do like intercompany transfer and send it over to the school.
That's a question for Sue.
Who's not here?
Who's not here? I don't know if they're on the same, anything.
I have to be online with what Pat and Adam are saying. We can do an
Yeah,
emergency
we're
meeting
on
if
the
we need
same,
to.
but
I used to do this, okay? This balance is somewhere.
Yeah, oh, of course there is.
Take care of somebody, and we'll deal with this problem. Get the right people here, get the right information to this group, so that we can figure out what the best approach is.
Do we have an,
How about if we, do you have an immediate, right this minute dollar amount need? In other words, could this number be reduced down to, let's say you had a $7,500 bill, just for a number that comes out of the air, that has to be paid by the end of the week, which would be 2 weeks from now because of the way the warrant works.
I
Obviously,
don't
this
know.
money's gonna go for the balance of the year, so the entire 30,000 is not, the sky is falling, said Chicken Little tonight.
Yeah,
But
I
there's gotta be
don't,
an amount that is obviously an issue.
so the email licensing, the domain, actually, no, I do the domain, the email licensing, the Comcast internet, the phone system, I believe those are all paid for by, well, IT would get those invoices. I don't see them till he sends them to me. So those are ones I haven't seen, but the rest of them I see. We have a contract with South Shore Computer Repair, an unfunded contract.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, my concern is just with all the legalities about whether we can take from one account to pay something in an emergency situation. So the alternative would be either we have an emergency meeting ourselves, or we could vote to authorize the chair to release funds out of this request in an emergency basis if the finance director indicates there is no other possible source to prevent the breakdown of the email system in the town and the website in the town. But if that's not the case, then we have this at our next meeting and do it correctly.
I appreciate that. I think I like the emergency meeting idea better. I'd rather have a person in the room that can answer the questions that you folks are gonna have, rather than me sitting back saying, well, this makes sense to me, and then find out that, well, 4 of you say, nah, you shouldn't have done it that way. I mean,
What establishes a quorum for this committee?
right now, 5.
Okay.
Because we're a 9-member board, so quorum is 5.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get 5 on an emergency basis, and everybody's up to speed on this now. So, I don't want to deny this. I think I'd like to table this, and if you would like me to send you an email in the morning, or you can send an email out to IT, I'd like to include,
If it's working.
provided it's working, if not, you can call them, provided their phones are still on. Ron Griffin, I'd like to see Ron Griffin, Stephen Mahoney, obviously Sue, when she's back, and this would probably not happen now till next week, and I'm assuming that Mr. LaFond will be back, so we can have a little bit better handle on what's going on. Elaine was concerned tonight, and as well she should, because she had made the original request, so she wasn't really confident that she should be in making this request. And I said, you know, somebody's got to be here to answer some questions, and I know that nobody's in the building. So this would never have flown at all without you, and thank you for taking the time to come tonight. But I think that with the questions raised, and I really think that we need to put this off another week.
One more question, Elaine, I'm not picking on you, you know that. You said there's an unfunded contract.
Yeah, social computer.
How does a contract get signed if there's no funding?
Well, normally, a PO would happen, which would secure the funds and earmark them, so to
Yeah.
speak. But that hasn't been happening for a while.
And again, that's just a
Do you know why and for how
question
long?
for the people that are supposed to be doing this.
Well, that would have been last fiscal year, so
Okay.
I don't know why. That would be a finance department function.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is this something that just got lost because Meg left and
No.
in the transition, or was it before that?
There
It was
was,
happening
I don't know
before.
what criteria she used to assign POs or not assign POs, but not every contract had a PO assigned to it.
Okay.
And how does the vendor accept that without a?
Probably because they trust us. We've used social computer for years, so I'm willing to bet that, you know, he had no issue with it. I know John, and I don't expect that would be an issue for him.
And I think to that point too, you know, like if you're gonna sign a contract and say we're committing to spending this
Yeah.
money, there should be a budget tied to it.
Absolutely.
Beyond the PO, there's gotta be some sort of budget tied to it, otherwise why would you endorse the contract?
Right.
And who signed, who here authorized the contract? Who signed on the
It's
contract?
gotta be.
It's a lot of stuff that fell through the cracks in the last 6 months with various vacancies.
For what it's worth too, some of my confusion stems from, we got some clarity tonight with the updated information, but the original 44 didn't make sense to me. The 30 still doesn't because there's a municipal insurance component to it as well, right? That's what this last page shows?
No, that was
No,
in
that's not
addition.
It's in addition.
So in Meg's email, this is just an FYI for you all. So the insurance budget was, I'm going to say skimmed from my request. So the request that you saw that got approved at town meeting was not enough to cover the insurance expenses for the town.
Something else that was never told to the finance committee during any of the budget hearings.
So that's now in a deficit. So next year, when you see the request, as long as it doesn't get skimmed again, it's going to look a lot higher, when in reality, from my original request, it will not be, it's probably not a lot higher. It's probably like a 10 or 12% increase, whereas it might look like a 25% increase.
Yeah, it's gonna be twice as much because you're gonna make up the difference. It's like when your escrow on your house is.
So I'm just
sufficient,
giving you the
it's
heads
double
up there,
charged.
and I attached that last page in your packet. You can see our SoftWrite account. It's already negative,
4,800.
yeah.
So you're not asking for any money to make this account whole?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, that's what I was confused about, because it's not, that $4,000, 4,866, is not listed in
That's not on this.
the 30,138
The
detail.
problem is these are both 122 accounts. So there's no buffer anywhere. So we could pay IT out of our budget of, whatever we have left.
$500.91.
There's 32,000 left in the 122
Oh,
budget.
you know, and
If we paid the 30,000 out of it, there's no budget for anything else. So that is.
Yeah, but is any of that insurance money due in the next 30, 60 days?
So the insurance, we pay in July to get a discount. So the town actually already saves money.
So this is
So it's
due
paid in
next
full.
July?
Nope, this has been paid. The bill for FY '22 has been paid.
Okay, so we're still sitting with 32,000 in that account, and the bill's already
122 is a
been paid.
bottom line select board account. It's not an insurance account.
Okay.
So
So now I'm
the
back
amount to the left
confused.
is the actual account. The amount to the right is the whole, see that 363?
Yeah,
And the total, and then you look to the left, it says 320.
right.
So that 320 obviously wasn't enough in the insurance line. So if you then move over to the right, so you're taking just one line out of our whole budget. So of the entire select board budget, the remaining balance is 32,000. We're asking for 30,000 for IT. That would wipe out, we'd have no money for
but the
advertising,
point I'm making is-
postage, you know,
Okay.
anything.
No, I
We
get
wouldn't be
that.
able to operate.
But so we could actually, or the select board budget could actually pay whatever bill is on fire at this moment out of this 32,000, and we would have another week or two to get an explanation and
That's
put
not
it
where the
back.
money's supposed to come from. There should be an IT line.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm trying to avoid having the website shut down.
You could, I would speak to the finance director before
I
doing
mean,
that.
I don't
only
like
because
this,
we
I don't
have
like
obli-
any of this. This-
I mean, the select board has financial obligations in its own budget.
Sure it does.
Which I don't have that list at this time. I could get that for you, but, and that sometimes is hard to predict as well.
So you gotta put the fire out.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to table this reserve request until the next time we meet.
Second.
I'd like to, why don't we make that till there's a, either the next regular meeting or one
Well,
one
next time we meet, yeah, right.
emergency meeting or something like that. Pending, you want anybody to be here?
Well, obviously request that all the necessary participants be available, IT, finance,
I like that.
school departments.
I like that.
Yes.
Trying to get this in the notes.
It's a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table this, pending the interview of the parties involved until the next meeting or one sooner if it's necessary. So we can get a handle on where this is coming from. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this is tabled to the next meeting, Elaine.
Elaine, thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
Thanks.
This is not you.
I didn't do the budgeting on it, so I totally understand.
This is not you. I'm gonna hang on to all these copies and just make the note on one of them that's tabled for now. And if you'd shoot out an email tomorrow, I'll confirm this in an email. When I get home tonight, I'll send you an email. But if you get an email out to the necessary individuals, and whenever they can all get their act together and want to sit down, we need 48 hours to post it. So I'll entertain a meeting whenever they need it, as soon as this needs to get done. If you'd also find out tomorrow how much this is on fire to get taken care of, that would be very helpful to us. Thank you. Isn't this fun? Okay. The CARES Act submission request, I was pretty happy to see that we got some money. Actually, we didn't, the select board got checks, which was pretty cool. I understand that some of the bigger stuff's been paid for. In your packet is the same sheet that was given to the select board. I don't know if there's a whole lot to discuss here, other than we don't have any departments here that can explain where it's going. There's nobody here from finance. So this is really more of an FYI, and I think what I would probably do is table this discussion till we have some people in the room that we can discuss this with. What is everybody's thoughts on that?
Yeah,
I agree.
agreed, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really get any
Can't dive
answer,
in
right?
it.
I mean, there's some interesting stuff here, I think, when you look at it. But we're not gonna get answers to questions until we have folks here
Right.
to answer them.
The only things I do know is that the Cascade machine was paid for, so that money that was originally in a transfer request for last year didn't have to happen. So that's good. Dave told us today that the roof across the street and the bathrooms are getting done over, or the roofs are getting done over on that also. That's part of this. As you heard him say, there's 7 new air conditioning and heating units up on the roof of this building. and there's money for LED lighting and so forth. But I do also know that the EMS department got the approval for the motorized,
Oh, the COVID van,
no, they didn't get the van, they got a motorized
stretcher?
bed, gurney thing that'll help, I guess it walks up and down stairs and stuff like that. I don't have the detail on that, but I know it was a pretty big purchase, and I know that that got approved. The disappointing part is that in the budget season, this beginning of the year, Adam went to the school, and they backed off some work that was being done in the cafeteria. I went to the fire department, and Craig backed off the Jaws of Life, pending a fall town meeting, with both Adam and I giving assurances to both places that if there was a fall town meeting, these would be on the agenda, and they'd be on the warrant. And now it appears that there is gonna be no fall town meeting. So, you know, we have no control over that. I don't like giving my word for something and having it not come to fruition, but I made it clear that if there was a town meeting, this would happen. And I had no control over the town meeting, so we very much appreciated that they gave up a little bit of that, because that's what went over to the budget for the,
That's what allowed us to do the
library.
water line.
And that's right, it did allow us to do the water line, which I understand is done and in, and now the fiasco is beginning on who's gonna tie in, should we, would we, and all this other stuff, so that's a fight for another day.
Who decides if there's a fall meeting or not?
The select board.
Select board.
Essentially.
Along, the select board along with the input from finance department and the town administrator.
If they
Apparently,
feel there's a need to do one, they'll do one.
there is no need.
There's no need, so.
With that, let's go over to the FinCom minutes of August 23rd. Everybody had a chance to look at these. Obviously, Kelly is not taking our minutes any longer, but Ashley has agreed to. So Ashley will be taking them. She couldn't make it tonight. There was a family obligation. She said if Beth could take the important notes and she would watch
trying.
the meeting, and then she'd turn the minutes in for the next time. I said that was great. So if anybody wants to do a motion on the minutes, we're ready to go.
Motion to approve, subject to the amendment of adding an E to the end of Clark.
Okay. Second.
Just want to take a peek here. Okay, everybody can vote except you, Walter, I'm sorry.
I wasn't here either.
And me. It says you were here.
Yeah, it does say you were
Yeah.
here.
Fake news.
You weren't here?
No, I was on vacation.
I was downstairs at another meeting, I wasn't
There wouldn't have been 5
You
people.
didn't come up at all?
there. No.
There wouldn't have been 5 people here for a
Really?
meeting.
Said
Without,
you were here.
without Greg and
Hold on,
without
let me go. No.
Pat. 1, 2, 3, 4,
We definitely
5.
did.
There would have been 5.
Yeah,
We had
just five.
Shane
I
gives
was-
thanks. You weren't here for
Yeah,
that?
so, Pat, you weren't here?
I was at an RDA meeting, and we had the
Yeah, you were,
Hillwood in.
yeah, you were
23rd.
definitely down there.
23rd of
23rd,
August.
yeah.
My wife's birthday, yeah, no.
So you weren't here
Great.
either?
No,
So that means only 5 were here.
All right, so now we need a motion to amend this. So if you would.
I'll make a
please-
motion to amend the meetings from August 23rd, 2021, to remove Greg and Pat as present that night, and to correct Ron Clark's name to add the E to the end.
My name's spelled right. His-
No one asked.
His is not.
No one asked.
I'm just.
But you weren't here, so it doesn't matter. I'll make sure.
What's great is it's spelled correctly elsewhere in the
Yeah,
minutes,
it's
too.
just that first one.
I think it should note that you were absent from the meeting.
That,
But I still need, I need a second on that.
Second.
Okay. Now that we have a motion and a second, we can discuss this. Any further discussion? And all those in favor of the 5 members that were present at the last meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So we have 5 to
5-0.
Boyd. Abstention.
abstain,
You
you abstain,
have
abstain, 3,
4
3
abstaining.
abstains.
5 to 4.
4. We are 9
Oh, yeah,
now.
Walter, that's right.
Walter has to
Okay.
abstain.
Very contentious.
minutes were never so difficult.
Because I'm doing minutes, that's why.
So I guess the next meeting date to be determined, I don't know what we're doing with budgets. I don't know what we're doing with much of anything right this moment, because we just don't. So pending the next meeting sooner than later on this funds transfer, and whenever they start with budgets, let's look at a calendar to see what might be good for the month of November, if you want to bother, or you just want to wait and see what comes up, and then we'll go from there. Usually, we don't really get too much going on anything later than the first week or so of December because of the holidays, obviously with Thanksgiving.
I think if the building, if this is on fire, they're gonna be coming, I mean, they should have been here tonight. If this was urgent,
I
there would have
agree.
been people here.
I agree. And this was kind of left because, well, just put this in and let's see what happens. And now they see what happens, which is nothing.
And will we be questioning the signing contracts without purchase orders, those sorts of things? Is that for us to?
Well, not if I don't put it on the agenda, but we can certainly get into the process, and that would be something during a town administrator update.
Because those end up being the things that they end up coming, saying, we didn't have the money for this, well, it's asking for forgiveness instead of permission.
That's that can be something that can be done during the town administrator, finance director update.
Okay.
So we don't have to have a specific agenda item, because it's part of an update from the TA, and we can bring in whatever we need to bring in to ask those questions at that
And
time.
do we know why Meg had put on here that the Earth, let's see, the Earth
I have
budget
no
was
idea.
gigantic?
I don't know. I don't know. The same reason that she thought that the Conservation Commission Land Acquisition Trust Fund was, gigantic also, except that it's specifically earmarked for, this is where it
I'll
can
look
go
that up.
and no place else. It'd be great if we could just, steal money out of some of these overinflated accounts, because some are still tied into articles that were approved 2, 3, 4 years ago. And there's still money sitting in accounts for articles that was not spent. But you can't touch that money.
It has to be turned back.
It has to be turned back, and that has to be by town meeting approval also, because you have to do away with the article.
The finance director has to make a recommendation to town meeting, through the TA to town meeting.
Right.
So that's another thing, I mean, should there be a mechanism where if it hasn't been spent over
I
a
always
certain
thought
amount of
that-
time,
It's-
it needs to
so
come
I-
back and be.
Just for,
I always thought the same thing, that if it was more than, if there was an article at town meeting and it didn't get spent for 2 fiscal years, then that's the end of that.
Unless it
Put
was
back,
planned
we'll
in
give it to you
advance, it's
again.
getting, we need it for 3 years from now, we have it now, if it's that in advance. but-
I met with Meg back in February, March timeframe about this topic specifically, because I felt it might be necessary to do that to fund the Plymouth Street Waterline project if we didn't have the money in other ways, right? So, for instance, there was at one time an account that was a dollar amount approved at town meeting to replace ceiling tiles that were stained from water damage and things like that. It was like an $80,000 account that was funded over the course of 4 years or something. Well, 5 years later, they still hadn't spent the $80,000, right? There was $35,000 left in the ceiling tile account. Theoretically, that $35,000 could be turned back to free cash to be used to be reallocated to some other project. That is essentially a decision that's made by the finance director with the assistance and/or support of the department head, that the department head and the finance director agree that the funds are no longer needed for that specific purpose. This is something I've brought up several times because I think a lot of that has to do with, you have to have a committed, sort of persistent finance director that feels strongly that that money should be turned back in order for someone to feel brave enough and courageous enough to pull that money back from a department head. It's not an easy thing to do. But when you've got a department head that fought for, 3 years, or sometimes this stuff's on a capital budget plan for 10 years, they finally get the money approved, they don't spend it all in the first 2 years, they don't want to lose it, right? And you're going to have people rushing out and spending money on things that they don't need because they're afraid they're going to lose it, and they waited 10 years for it to come up in their capital forecast, right? So I think this type of stuff happens often. And then you also have certain capital accounts that are intentionally funded over time with lots of reserve funds in advance. For instance, the technology budget for the school, they get roughly $100,000 a year for technology. That doesn't mean they spend $100,000 a year. They might build up that account to $500,000 and then spend $400 in 1 year.
It's on the capital plan 2 years from now, it's $700 and some odd $1,000 because everybody's getting, and whenever they said to us at the budget meeting that it was upgrades to the new elementary school, a few of us lost our mind and said, the building's brand new, what are you talking about?
And it's because if they don't start putting $100,000 a year away now, when those repairs come due 5, 10 years from now, it's gonna be $1 million item, and we're not gonna have the capital funds to put towards it. So the thought process is to proactively squirrel away some nuts, so that later on down the road, we have the food that we need, to pay these bills for these large expenditures, right, and these large
And
items.
this IT stuff and technology stuff is advancing, and every time it does, the dollar cost is ridiculous. It's insane. It's crazy.
So I think some of these accounts that have been established and set up, and there's money that's been sitting in them for 4 or 5 years, some of those accounts could be cleaned up. I mean, I asked sort of a general question of the former finance director, roughly how much money do you think is in these types of accounts? And it's in the hundreds of thousands,
It is.
so perhaps millions.
Just needs to be explained. I mean, is it, if it's being held because we know 3, 5 years from now, we're gonna need this money, that's
That's one thing.
fine, but if it's just there and I don't wanna give it up, it's like, it's my precious or something, you know, you've gotta be able to justify that you still need it, you can't just hold on to it because it's mine. It's not yours, it belongs to the town, it's not your money.
Correct.
So why don't we hold off on scheduling another meeting pending what the outcome of all of this is, and then I'll send everybody an email, we'll try to put together a date. Mondays still work for everyone?
Typically.
So why don't we do it that way rather than lock in another date for something that we have to cancel because we don't have enough stuff to do anyway? Fair enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any other comments?
Walter, welcome.
No, Walter,
Welcome.
welcome.
Then,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm surprised you didn't make that motion.
I was on the verge.
A little slow tonight. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night.